moved differently. He listened more. He no longer jumped at every request, every invitation, every urgent email. He stopped saying yes out of guilt or fear of missing out. He learned the power of a quiet, unapologetic no. And with every no, he reclaimed a piece of himself. He stopped chasing titles because he realized the ladder never ends. You think you're climbing toward freedom, but the higher you go, the less of yourself you recognize. One day you wake up and realize you've spent years becoming a stranger, one who smiles for performance, who plays roles he didn't audition for, who builds a life that looks perfect on paper but feels hollow at the center. He didn't want that anymore. So he made space, not just in his calendar, but in his soul. Every morning, before the world barged in with its demands and deadlines, he carved out a small sanctuary of time. 15 minutes. That's it. No music, no notifications, no scrolling, no agenda, just him and the silence. At first, those 15 minutes felt awkward, like staring at a stranger in the mirror. But slowly, that silence turned sacred. In that quiet space, he could hear the faintest whisper of something true, something old, something familiar. Himself. He remembered the boy who used to lie in the grass and stare at the clouds for hours, the one who dreamed without filters, the one who didn't need validation to feel worthy. In those moments, he wasn't the manager or the entrepreneur or the guy who made it. He was just human, breathing, existing, feeling. And in that space, he learned something most people never do. Success isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't scream from a corner office or flaunt itself on social media. Success is quiet. It's a soft, steady rhythm inside your chest when you know you're living life on your own terms. It's looking in the mirror and not flinching. It's knowing that if everything was stripped away, your job, your money, your followers, you'd still have you. And that would be enough. Because the truth is, success isn't what you show the world. It's not the curated highlight reel, or the applause, or the numbers in your bank account. It's what you whisper to yourself in the dark, when no one is watching and no one is applauding. It's the voice that says, I'm proud of how far you've come. I'm proud of who you are becoming. But if you never stop long enough to hear that whisper, if you keep running, keep performing, keep numbing, you might just spend your entire life building someone else's dream, chasing someone else's definition of enough. You might spend your whole life becoming someone you were never meant to be. And that would be the greatest tragedy of all. Most people never get there. They live their whole lives in motion, rushing from one task to the next, one dopamine hit to the next, one milestone to the next, always convinced that peace lives somewhere just around the corner. But peace doesn't live there. It never did. Peace doesn't arrive when your schedule clears or your bank account hits a certain number. Peace arrives when you stop avoiding the quiet. And that's what he finally understood. He didn't find peace in a new promotion or a new city or some spiritual retreat in the mountains. He found it in a room, alone, with no one to impress, no titles to wear, just the raw, unfiltered truth of who he was, underneath the layers of productivity and performance. That's where it begins, in the terrifying, beautiful moment when you finally sit still long enough for the noise to fade and the real you to step forward. Not the version you post online, not the version your coworkers admire, the one underneath, the one that's been quietly waiting for you to come home. He realized that silence is not the absence of life. It's the birthplace of life. And in that silence, he stopped performing and started being. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who mastered isolation. Centuries ago, while the world around him was drowning in war, betrayal, and politics, Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on earth, was quietly journaling to himself, not to share with the world, not to publish, but to survive. Because even as an emperor, he knew that the real battle wasn't out there. It was inside. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. He had palaces, advisors, armies, but his true refuge? A quiet mind. Marcus understood what modern society often forgets. Isolation is not weakness. It's training. It's strength in its purest form. When you isolate, not to escape, but to reflect, you come back stronger, sharper, cleaner. Because when you remove yourself from the noise of the world, you begin to see how much of it was never yours to begin with. The stress, the expectations, the self-doubt, the performance, it all starts to crumble when it has no one left to perform for. Marcus wasn't afraid of the silence. He needed it. And in that silence, he discovered the deepest truth of Stoicism. You cannot control what happens in the world, but you can train your mind to remain unmoved. You can anchor yourself, even as everything else shifts. That's why isolation isn't just a retreat. It's resistance. In a world that wants you to always be available, always be reacting, always be chasing. Isolation is rebellion, and clarity is the reward. But not everyone slows down. There's another man, same age, same potential, same world. But he never paused, never unplugged. He kept running. From meeting to meeting, update to update, decade to decade. He got the promotions, the bigger house, the bigger name. But somewhere along the way, he started disappearing. Smiling less, breathing shallower, thinking in bullet points, sleeping in fragments. He'll never know who he could have been, because he never gave himself the gift of stopping. And so the choice is yours. It wasn't physical, it was in my outlook. I did exactly what I told death I would do. When I was well enough, I held my wife and told her how much I loved her, how sorry I was for ever losing sight of what we had. I called my mother every single day until she probably got sick of me just a little. I visited my brother, and we finally took that fishing trip together like when we were kids. I watched a sunrise every chance I got, often with a steaming cup of coffee and my hand in my wife's. We even booked those tickets to the destination we'd been dreaming of, and together we marveled at how wide and beautiful the world is. I returned to work, but with a different mindset. I set boundaries and refused to let it consume me. In fact, eventually I changed jobs to have more time for life outside the office. I found myself cherishing the small moments, walking in the park on a crisp morning, laughing at an old joke with a friend, even grocery shopping with my wife on a lazy Sunday. Things I used to rush through or grumble about became reminders that I was still here to experience them. I also carried with me an awareness of the fragility of it all. I had been given a second chance, but I knew not everyone gets that. Any day could be the day I meet death again for the final time, hopefully many years down the line, but one never knows. The difference now is that I no longer push that fact aside. Instead, I let it motivate me. There's an old Latin saying, memento mori, which means remember that you must die. Far from being morbid, I found it's actually a call to truly live. Knowing that one day I will die makes me appreciate living so much more. These days, I often find myself pausing to really take in the moments that would have slipped by before. I don't scroll mindlessly on my phone as much, or lose myself in pointless worries. I try to be truly present, whether I'm having a conversation, eating a meal, or just sitting quietly listening to my own breath. Life is happening now, and I don't want to miss it. Sometimes, late at night, I'll wake up and just listen to the sound of my wife's gentle breathing beside me, and I'll feel a swell of gratitude so profound it brings tears to my eyes. That gratitude is a constant companion for me now. I am grateful for the chance to still be here, to still have time to become the person I want to be, to love the people I love. The day I met death, I learned how to live.